Content creators continue to struggle with artificial intelligence usage in different ways. Schools are finding out that Chromebooks purchased during the pandemic might not last much longer. And research suggests that looking at screens all day might not be good for your eyesight, just like mom told you all those years ago. These stories and more coming up on this episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. The bearded man behind those glowing screens is Chris. Hello, Chris. How are you? Yo, he's not even responding today.
I guess. Yeah, bearded man. All right.
You have a wonderful flowing beard, and I'm jealous of it every day.
Not quite flowing, but eventually when it gets to Jesus length, it might be.
Is that how long you're going to grow it, you think? Or
yeah, maybe.
Does it get long? Does it get longer near the chin?
Yeah, it does. It gets about, say, here. Once you start losing stuff in it, then it's time to trim it. You know? All
right, we're off to a great start. Let's jump right into it with some of the AI copyright stuff that we're seeing around the world today. There was a good article on The Verge about how Google is trying to have it both ways with AI and copyright. This is a really long story, so I don't want to get into the complete story, but basically this was by the editor-in-chief of The Verge. On the one hand, Google has protections for artists who use copyrighted material, but on the other hand, Google also insists on training AI search results on books and news websites without paying anyone, and they claim that it's permissible fair use. Basically, Google announced a deal with Universal Music Group to develop an AI framework to help work towards common goals. Google is signaling that it will pay off the music industry with special deals that create brand new and potentially devastating private intellectual property rights, while basically telling the rest of the web that the price of being indexed in search is complete capitulation to allow Google to scrape data for AI training. Now, this is sort of an opinion piece, too, from The Verge. Basically, they're saying that they are going to use AI to train, or they're going to use AI to use in their YouTube Content ID algorithm, which always detects whether a video is used copyrighted material or not, so that you can't benefit off of the work of someone else. But the really squiggly, squishy part is they might do this with AI voices, so that if you use AI voice to replicate the voice of Frank Sinatra, for example, and that's the example they use, that you might get a copyright strike or some kind of violation if the algorithm thinks that an AI voice is being used. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't say whether if someone who might just sound like that person does a video would get copyrighted strikes, but the whole copyright strike system with YouTube is basically there to protect the artists.
Right.
So on the one hand, Google is keeping the music industry happy, but on the other hand, then they also insist on being able to scrape the web off of book sites and websites to train AI data, which could harm the copyright owners of text and written text. OpenAI recently did this with its where they allowed its web crawlers to be blocked, or to prevent the web crawlers from indexing your site. But that's OpenAI, and that's just for training purpose of their AI. If you did the same thing, like if you're the Wall Street Journal and you say to Google, well, you can't crawl my site, that's going to just kill your ranking.
Yeah.
And so there might end up being a court case, I think, where Google, you can block the AI from learning it in terms of the training, but you can't block it because it's too valuable to be in that search algorithm. It just feels like this is going to get really messy, and it's going to probably end up in the courts. But I just thought it was a fascinating article, especially in light of the court rulings recently where they are saying AI images can't be copyrighted. It's also been known that you can't copyright a voice. So this video, while it might be copyrighted, someone imitating my voice, you can't copyright that. If I was a singer and if I was popular and famous.
That's scary. I feel like, I don't know, with all this AI stuff going on, the more stories we see of it, it's really going to change the internet, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, remember how people would say, it's like, if you have an email or if you have a website or if you input your information in social media sites, it's like all your information is out there, everything. especially on the dark web.
Yeah.
Right. Now it's like, geez, if I have like videos of myself, like videos of this, our podcast,
Sure.
our voices and likeness now are out there on the internet to be scraped and to be used into, whatever AI algorithm out there that can pull voices and images out. Right.
And there are issues of, do I retain the likeness of my voice and my persona?
Yeah.
Same thing with you. Now, multiply that by if we were famous, if we were popular. So let's pick a popular YouTuber, Mr. Beast, for example, or Joe Rogan as a podcaster.
Right. It's already been done. They've
already cloned his voice, right?
Yeah, it's already been done. It's easy to do.
And now you clone it, and you add video, and you can then basically have them say whatever they want. You now take this and put it up on YouTube. Is YouTube going to take it down?
Yeah.
It's. I wouldn't want to be in the legal department of YouTube at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think it's going to be this probably isn't true. I think everything will be fine, but it makes you wonder, like how much more scarier the internet's going to become, 10 years from now, 12 years from now.
And you might not be able to tell whether something is real or fake.
Yeah,
that's
know.
another issue. One of the things that also that bothers me is the idea of the internet when it was originally conceived, or when people started getting really popular on the internet, when the technology took off. There was this idea that the technology would democratize things. And we saw that with blogging. When you started writing a blog, you could become popular. There's a whole list of YouTubers out there that have monetized and taken advantage of the platform to become famous. Would if YouTube wasn't around, would a guy like Mr. Beast be able to do this? He would have to get signed by a Hollywood production company, and you would have to, and the platform wouldn't necessarily be YouTube videos. It would be a TV show. And so YouTube created this new range of creators.
It's a new medium.
Same thing with TikTok. You see all these TikTok quote unquote influencers that can take advantage of the platform to become, and I'm going to use this word, famous.
Well, I think take advantage.
There's TikTok famous, internet famous, YouTube famous, and then real celebrity.
Yeah, I think they take advantage of the algorithm.
Yeah,
I did this video on a personal site, on one of my personal sites. I created this video. It was an interview with a food truck. Mm-hmm. I think you know what I'm talking about. It was a video on a food truck, right? I did an interview for them, and it blew up. Got like 30,000+ views.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, this is awesome. And I did another video after that, and it was on something entirely different, although in the same vein. We interviewed these people, and I put it up on my channel, and it bombed. It's like if I wanted to, I could have just done another video on food trucks, and it would have blown up the same way as that previous video did.
Because the algorithm is looking for similar content.
Food trucks, food.
Yeah,
it's going to want you to feed the machine the same thing. So I think
is that why we're not popular? Because I don't cover the same topics every episode.
We need to become an AI channel and just cover AI. And hey, maybe YouTube will pick it up.
Analyze a lot of, I look at a lot of the analytics on the shorts that hit and the shorts that don't hit.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to tell sometimes.
It almost seems like 2 shorts out of the 4 we post do really well, and then the other 2 don't.
And I'm starting to think maybe on the weekends, we get good hits on weekends. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes whether I'm the thumbnail or whether you're the thumbnail or whether a guest is the thumbnail, sometimes you and me as the thumbnail are better than...
what? I think it's when this is the screen, the thumbnail. I got to copyright the beard.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't
when
want
you look at when you look at the camera and smile, that's when we get lots and lots of hits.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, go ahead and do it.
Well, I'll do it at the end.
Okay. All right. So the thing that's disturbing is that as more of these companies develop technologies, the big platforms, it's less and less about the democratization.
Yeah.
And it's almost like YouTube is now going to be considered like a big Hollywood production company where anybody that you're not going to be internet famous in the future. You're going to have to find another platform to try to find your fame.
Right. I mean, look
versus just being a YouTuber.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that just proves the advancement of technology, right? The fact that
well, as
YouTube,
it matures too. Yeah, as it matures, then people get serious and they build companies
right.
around it. And some guy in his basement is not going to be able to become YouTube famous. Just like some guy in their basement is probably not going to develop Apple Computer or companies like that. And that's what So if you want to become famous and rich quickly, you have to find an untapped market that has not yet been subject to that gold rush. And maybe that's where AI plays a part now. Now, maybe you should start using AI and become an AI digital artist, or take advantage of all these new tools and then try to make something out of that.
Yeah, true. I mean, and it too also could be just the nature of the internet. I mean, there's an audience for anything out there. I don't want to get into the rules of the internet, but there's probably an audience out there for whatever idea that you have.
Yeah.
Right.
That reminds me of when we had a comment on one of our shorts when we were talking about Second Life. Remember that the little clip about Second Life was been around for 20 years? Do you remember when we talked about that on a show? It was celebrating their anniversary, and I made a comment about, I didn't even realize Second Life was still around. And I think I created that. We turned that into a little short for YouTube, and we got a comment from someone saying that it was wrong for me to say that I should have been surprised that it never hit the mainstream. But even if it didn't hit the mainstream, there were still enough people that enjoyed the technology to keep the site running. Mm-hmm. And whether that person was right or wrong, I'm not here to argue that, but. Like you said, there's a small audience for almost anything out there.
Yeah,
both good and bad. Obviously, we could make jokes about some of the stuff that is a little bit seedy, but people that read comic books, there's a group for them. All the video games you're playing now.
Oh yeah, what was it? Armored Core 6. Armored Core was one of the first. Some of the first games from Software came out.
Yeah.
And back in the day, those were so niche. They were so niche to the gaming market. And then they got into the Soulsborne series, right?
Yep.
That blew up. That was their golden ticket to mainstream. And
then they made Elden Ring.
But then they go back to Armored Core, and what once was niche is now mainstream.
You could find people that might go, Armored Core is a niche. Even now.
Yeah.
Even though it's had some mainstream success. I guess that's what I'm saying is there's a niche for
the audience is larger. I think the audience has become mainstream.
Here's another one for which I'll move on to the next story. It's related to AI, but the Fallout video game series, Amazon is doing a TV show based on this. And now I'm excited about this TV show.
Cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic. I know. I can't get too excited for anything any days, especially in front of you. So the TV series apparently is coming out next year, so 2024. They were at Gamescom. The company released a little mini trailer, but then on this one they also released some flat artwork, like an advertisement. If you go up to the top, you can see that's the Fallout Boy character. Typical thumbs up, and then Los Angeles, and that's the setting for the TV series. But people started to notice that there were some really weird, glitchy things in the artwork. Like for example, in that one, it looks like the tree is a little off center.
Oh yeah.
If you go down,
hold on a second. Let me see.
Yeah,
you're right.
If you go down to the next one, that person has 3 legs.
It's a person.
Yep, and in the main one, it's off to the left. If you see the left down southwest corner.
Hold on, let me open this in a new tab.
Okay.
And then just blow this up.
Yep. So if you go down now and go to the left.
Oh, right here. Oh,
no, to the left of the Fallout Boy guy.
No, I know. It's just the image.
Okay,
is covered by.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
that person.
Go.
There's
right there, right next to our boxes.
Right underneath his fist there.
Yep.
Okay, so you go back to the other one. There was a couple of other. I think the car. Yeah, the car. That red car. It's moving in the direction away from the viewer, but they drew headlights on the back part of the car.
Oh yeah.
This is something I've seen on Midjourney when I've had it try to draw cars. It draws the cars in the wrong direction. It doesn't understand which way a car should be going. I think there's some shadows in that one that look off. But there's enough evidence out there that possibly the background was created by AI. And of course, a bunch of people on Twitter, they were like, I can't believe that Amazon, a $1 billion company, would use AI in this case instead of paying an artist.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see more of this.
By the time this video comes out, there might be stories about whether Amazon admitted it or not. Another story on a mainstream website that was discussing this said that even if it wasn't AI, it's a really bad Photoshop job. So it could be really bad Photoshop, but I think all indications are that it was created by AI.
I mean, do you think the lights on the car are just the rear, the rear lights? No?
But that looks like the front part of an engine rather than a trunk. I think the trunk bend would be a little different.
Yeah, you're right,
if you go back up, there was another one where, go back up to the main image, there was on that yellow building, there's no windows. So, again, a human artist...
Is it a building?
It's supposed to be a building. No, it's supposed to be a building, like a hotel.
Really?
Look to the right, and you've got windows in the other parts of the building.
It's out of proportion, though, don't you think? Because the cars are here.
Yeah, listen, I'm not one to judge. When I try to draw with perspective, I usually mess up and get things wrong.
Actually, yeah, now that you look at it, if we look at the lady to the right of the torso, Fall Out Boy, and then you look to the left, well, hold on a second, you can't see it. I think the buildings are out of proportion. The buildings are out of proportion.
Yeah.
I think.
And then I think there was another story where someone took that image and recreated it with AI really quickly. And he said, that's a problem. But, and then I was thinking, does it really matter if a company uses AI or not? And this goes on to our discussion we've had before with the Secret Invasion trailer for Marvel, where they came out. Did they admit it? Or they did say that it was created by AI, right?
It was. Yeah, they admitted to it.
It was so obvious that it wasn't up for debate.
No, they admitted to it.
Like, if Amazon wants to, they could do this, right? They could create AI art and just. It would be nice if they said it and said this image was created by AI.
So,
as opposed to trying to pass it off as.
Yeah, in my opinion, I'm kind of 50-50 on it, right? I think companies have the right to do whatever they want, especially if you're private, whatever.
Right.
They can decide whether or not they want to use AI or not, but at the same time, I think they should try to use actual artists, employees to create original content.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Now, what's interesting is that if this was created by AI, they couldn't copyright it.
True.
So that image could now be used by anybody that wants to use it. So maybe they don't admit it, that it was an AI thing, and they could still claim that this image
is
copyrighted.
It's pretty snaky.
I wonder if that's how these companies are going to get around this idea of copyright. They'll just say, well, it wasn't created by AI.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of rules and regulations coming out.
There has to be something.
Yeah.
There has to be something.
All right. I want to move on to our next story. It is back to school season. Your child is not ready for school yet, even though she is probably a lot more brilliant than I am. So maybe
definitely.
That's a definite. So there's an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal about how a lot of school systems that bought Chromebooks during the pandemic because they were low price, easy to use, apparently are no longer a good deal. Models and now have shot up in price in the past 4 years. Constant repairs are adding to the cost. Google imposes expiration dates even if hardware still works. This year, Google is going to stop support for 13 models, and next year, 51 models are going to expire. These surging costs are presenting a predicament for anyone who runs a school and wants to educate children. Some administrators say they are throwing precious funding at a product that just doesn't last long enough. Doubling the lifespan of Chromebooks could save public schools and taxpayers an estimated $1.8 billion, according to US PIRG, a public interest research group that analyzed Chrome data. So when the pandemic hit, there were all these school systems that were like, holy crap, we've got to figure out how we're going to teach our kids remotely. And so they threw a lot of money at Google and bought all of these Chromebooks because, again, Chromebooks are less expensive than a typical laptop that you see from Dell or anyone that uses Windows. So the Chrome OS, it's not, it's a computer, but it's basically running off of Chrome OS, browser-based operating system. My kids, all three of my kids have a Chromebook assigned to them. That was given to them, I probably want to say, right at around the pandemic, so 2021 when they went back to school. Everyone was given a Chromebook. So now it's been 2 years. Luckily, my kids are at the high end where they're about to graduate. So it won't be an issue where they will have to do a refresh on these Chromebooks. But it is a big problem for a lot of school systems if they've got to constantly be upgrading. And the other problem is that these things break because you've got kids, and kids aren't very smart when it comes to handling a lot of this technology. They drop it, they spill water on it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So it is a problem if you're in a school system. And I just want to tell one other story. So the summer happened. And my son took his Chromebook and put it somewhere. And then over the last week, he's now had to try to find it. And he didn't charge it at all throughout the summer. And so 3 hours to go before bedtime on Sunday night before he has to go back to school, he finally finds the charger for it, plugs it in, and goes, okay, I'll be ready for school tomorrow. Yeah. Kids, they're just, they're so much fun. But there is good news on the PC front, which is the next story I want to talk to you. Our sister company here at Foundry/IDG, it's the IDC, the International Data Corp. They're the people that do all of the stats and figures. They basically said that global PC shipments are expected to return to growth in 2024. However, it's going to be below 2019 pre-pandemic levels. The road to recovery for personal computers has been challenging, coming off explosive years in 2020 and 2021, but signs of growth are finally returning. According to IDC's personal computing device tracker, PC shipments are forecast to grow 3.7% year over year in 2024, reaching 261.4 million shipments. The shipment volume will be higher than the 259.6 million in 2018, but still below 2019 levels. IDC says the industry still faces challenge, including concerns around the consumer market refresh cycle, businesses pushing device purchases forward, and education budgets that are not rebounding in many markets. As a result, 2023 shipments are forecast to decline 13.7% year over year to 252 million units. But as you get into 2024 and beyond, you'll see that the numbers are expected to grow. There's the chart there, and Chrome OS, as you can see, in 2024, you will see some growth and then some small growth, but the big growth in the yellow line is Mac OS, expected to be a huge jump next year, and then they're going to have a decline between 2024 and 2025. But I think overall, it's good news, which saw a lot. If you see those declines on the left from 2022 to 2023, and even before then, I think there were some further declines.
I mean, this also might be indicative of just, the economy in general. People might be looking for cheaper options. You know what I mean? And they also,
and the analyst at IDC also said, consumer demand for PCs also faces challenges from other devices, including smartphones, consoles, tablets, and more, marking 2023 as the year with the greatest annual decline in consumer PC shipments since the category's inception. So it looks like that this year is going to be a bad year, but then after that, everything's going to be great.
So we think.
Until it won't be. Well, that's the hard part about making predictions is that...
Right. Your intention is to be right.
you would hope that it's right, but if it's wrong, you just go, oh, hey, look, something shiny over there.
Right. Look at something else.
Yeah. All right, there's another story I want to talk about. Speaking of screens and such, another great story in the Wall Street Journal is saying that the screens and lack of sun are causing an epidemic of myopia. And the first thing I thought of, well, I thought of two things when I was reading this article. Basically,
myopia is
nearsightedness, which means you can see things pretty well in front of you, but then distance, it gets fuzzy. So I'm nearsighted. When I first started getting glasses, I noticed that when I was driving, it was really blurry when I was far away. Mm-hmm. But I could still read, a computer or a book like this. And as I've gotten older, it's now I need glasses for everything. So I have progressive lenses for both up close and far away.
Yeah.
Just the ravages of time. But basically, because of the pandemic, not a lot of people were going outside, and they basically said that all of these devices and the lack of going outside to get sun is causing an uptick in the number of myopia cases. And so the old phrase that your mom or your grandma would say, like, stop reading or stop being so close to that device or that TV.
Exactly. Yeah.
Your eyes are going to go bad. It's actually somewhat true. But also get these kids outside and get them to do something. The second thing that I was reminded of was when Apple had their recent announcement during their Worldwide Developer Conference, not the Vision
the
Pro.
VR?
No, they were talking about I think it was the Watch OS upgrade. They're going to include some kind of sensor or data tracker that is tracking how much sunlight you get, and to remind people or the users to go outside and get some fresh air. And
so the watch will remind you to live.
So Apple, the computer that basically ruined all of the kids by having this device that causes them to do this all day inside, blah, 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 or an iPad. And, we're creating an army of zombies that are attached to these devices, is now saying, oh, my bad, I'm going to remind you to go outside. It's almost like that reminder that they do when it's like, it's time to go to bed now.
Right.
Or I'm going to turn the blue light, because they realize that this technology is ruining people. So let's just have a reminder.
Well, it's also
as I'm getting text messages from my kids at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's like, well, what good are you as a consumer to Apple if you're unhealthy or dead?
Right.
It wants to keep you alive.
If you're a zombie that's not getting enough sleep and you're inside all day and now you can't see.
Right. So if you're not alive, you can't buy more Apple products. So it's like a virus. It's the consumer virus.
It's like the parasite that lives inside you, all of a sudden telling you to eat healthier.
Apple is looking out for your well-being.
That's like, it's almost like, so I've got this thing that is feeding off of me, and then it can talk to me and says, hey, Keith, in order for me to survive, you need to start eating healthier.
Right. Right.
Is that really cynical?
Of course they're going to do that. Of course they're going to want to look after your health and stuff like that, because, and then functionality, and also they want you to buy more Apple products. And
they want you to buy the health tracker, and they're going to tell you all these great things about running and heart rate monitoring and all this other stuff. I think it's a little cynical for them to do that.
Yeah. I mean,
but I guess there's scientific evidence about the fact that you need to, in order to not get myopia, that you need to go outside. So if you're listening to this while you're running, congratulations. If you're inside, go outside. All right. One final story, and then we're going to wrap it up. We talk a lot on this show about artificial intelligence and how it can be used for sort of bad purposes. So I'm always on the lookout for stories where AI is good. Okay. And so I found one. Research breakthrough brain implant and a digital avatar allows this stroke survivor to speak with facial expressions for the first time in 18 years. And this is a story from the University of San Francisco. And how do I get my kids to stop texting me at this point? We might have more beeps. All right. So This follows a patient who this woman named Anne, and at the age of 30, she suffered a brain stem stroke that left her severely paralyzed. She lost control of all the muscles in her body and was unable to even to breathe. It came on suddenly one afternoon for reasons that are still mysterious. For the next 5 years, she went to bed at night afraid that she would die in her sleep. It took years of physical therapy before she could move her facial muscles enough to laugh or cry. Still, the muscles that would have allowed her to speak remained immobile. And she had like a 13-month-old daughter, an 8-year-old stepson, and a 26-month-old marriage. Now she's working with researchers at University of California, San Francisco, and UC Berkeley to develop new brain-computer technology that could one day allow people like her to communicate more naturally through a digital avatar that represents a person. So they're using an AI avatar. They're using AI technologies to interpret signals from her brain that then get translated into speech. And there is a really cool video here that shows a little bit about how the technology works. Now, they did condense some of the footage to speed it up just a little bit. But what she was doing before was she had this thing where she could type out her answers, and it would take 5 to 7 minutes to have a conversation with her. But now her thoughts can be...
The device is an electrocorticography grid, which is attached to a pedestal, which is screwed onto the participant's skull, and as the very
invasive.
first person to have this.
Yeah, but this is able to read her signals, and then it converts it to speech.
I think you are wonderful.
In the Chang Lab, we really focus on restoring voice to people that have lost it due to
obviously it's in
like
beta
stroke or
version.
ALS.
So.
What we're picking up on are neural activity related directly to the attempts to move her facial muscles, and that's what we're able to decode into speech.
Hey Anne, how's it going?
It is good to see you.
Giving them
So that's a
the
pretty
ability
quick-
to communicate again with their loved ones.
That's a pretty quick response
Yeah,
from a
I mean,
conversation
it's-
standpoint.
So it's basically predicting what she's trying to say.
Yeah.
Or interpret what she's trying to say based off of the movements of her muscles in her mouth, in her face, her mouth.
But I think it's also reading her brain signals, too.
That too, yeah. I think that one, it got it right. It
Yeah.
got what she said right.
System.
In order to communicate in her day-to-day life.
So this is what she was using before. She was using some glasses, and then the glasses would had a cursor that she would type out these informations, but this was taking... Yeah.
I think that was very similar to what Stephen Hawking used.
Yeah.
Would
Old tech.
probably be like a 5 to 7 minute conversation.
Anyway, we'll put the link of the story on the show page, just to show. I like stories like this because it does show, hey, technology can be used for good purposes. So I generally need a reminder every now and then that not everything is hackers trying to take all of your money,
Right,
and bad things and deep fakes and all this other stuff, or technology that's going to steal our jobs. So it's nice to see technology being used in beneficial ways.
I mean, especially in the medical industry.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was one individual we had on the show who talked about how AI can predict ailments and stuff as you get older. I'm like, wow, that's actually useful. It's not like we're asking to create some sort of AI generated image. These are actually real use cases they can use AI for.
Right. So. And it's also a little bit personal for me because I have a family history of strokes. My grandfather had a stroke, and I never knew him before he had the stroke. So my first memories of him were basically he was a stroke survivor, and he talked weird to me, and it would be interesting to see if technology like that could someday help stroke survivors communicate better and be able to live their lives, a lot more than what has been done in the past. So I'm always in favor of technologies that can help stroke victims. So, all right, that's going to do it for us. It was kind of a short week in terms of technology news, and we'll come back with lots of more stories. And of course, we'll do the bad news ones too. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, no problem.
That's all the time we have for today's episode. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, add any comments that you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.